Enterprise RAG Architecture, a proven SMB guide. Hi there. Today we'll talk about Enterprise RAG Architecture, a proven SMB guide. We'll cover everything you need to know about Enterprise RAG Architecture for SMBs. So, let's get started. What is RAG and why SMBs are adopting it?
Retrieval Augmented Generation, RAG, is an AI architecture pattern where a language model is paired with a retrieval system, so responses are grounded in specific documents rather than relying solely on the model's training data. Here is how it works at a high level.
A user submits a query.
The system converts that query into a vector embedding. A vector search engine finds the most semantically similar documents in your knowledge base. Those documents are passed as context to the language model. The model generates a response grounded in that retrieved content. For SMBs, this matters because you can build a private AI assistant that knows your products, processes, and policies without sharing sensitive data with a public model or spending months on custom model training. According to Microsoft's Azure AI documentation, RAG is one of the most practical ways to ground LLM responses in proprietary business knowledge.
The adoption curve for RAG in smaller businesses is accelerating fast.
The startup community shows high engagement around AI product building, and the need for an accessible SMB-focused implementation guide is real. Before you build, it is worth clarifying whether a custom AI agent or a Microsoft Copilot integration better suits your needs.
Our comparison of Copilot versus custom AI agents, which fits your SMB, is a good place to start. Core components of Enterprise RAG Architecture for SMBs. A production-ready Enterprise RAG Architecture for SMBs on Azure requires 4 working layers.
Azure provides managed services for each, so you do not need a large IT team to get it running. Document ingestion and chunking. Your source documents need processing before they can be searched.
This involves
loading files from Azure Blob Storage or SharePoint Online, splitting documents into smaller text chunks, typically 500,1000 tokens per chunk, cleaning metadata and attaching document identifiers for traceability. Chunk size matters more than most guides acknowledge. Too small and you lose surrounding context, too large and retrieval quality drops because the vector becomes diluted across too much content. A 512 token chunk with 10% overlap is a solid starting default for most business document types. Vector embeddings with Azure OpenAI. Each chunk is converted into a vector embedding using Azure OpenAI Service. The model is the current cost-effective choice for retrieval augmented generation for small business workloads, outputting 1,536 dimensional vectors that capture semantic meaning well. A query about invoice payment terms will surface documents about billing schedules even without exact keyword overlap. Azure AI Search for vector indexing. Azure AI Search, formerly Azure Cognitive Search, stores the vector embeddings and runs approximate nearest neighbor (ANN) search at query time. It supports hybrid search, combining vector similarity with traditional keyword scoring, which is usually the best approach for business document retrieval.
The official Azure AI Search vector search documentation covers index configuration in detail. How to build a RAG pipeline on Azure step by step.
The RAG pipeline on Azure follows a clear construction sequence.
Here is the full implementation path from a blank Azure subscription to a working system. Create an Azure resource group to contain all related services in one logical boundary.
Provision Azure Blob Storage and upload your source documents, PDFs, Word files, plain text. Set up an Azure function or logic app to trigger document chunking on each file upload event. Deploy Azure OpenAI Service and enable the embeddings model. Create an Azure AI Search index with a vector field configured for 1536 dimensions. Run the ingestion pipeline to embed each chunk and push vectors plus metadata into the search index. Build the query layer, accept user queries, embed them, and retrieve the top K chunks from Azure AI Search using hybrid search. Construct the LLM prompt by combining retrieved chunks with the user's question and his system instruction. Call the Azure OpenAI Chat Completions API using GPT-4o Mini for cost efficiency. Return the grounded response to your application UI or downstream API consumer. This entire flow runs inside Azure with no external dependencies, which matters for data privacy. Teams without a dedicated back-end developer often wrap these steps inside an AI agent on Azure that orchestrates retrieval automatically as part of a broader workflow. Setting up Azure AI Search for vector indexing. When creating your search index, set the vector field dimensions to match your embedding model output, 1536-4. Use the HNSW, Hierarchical Navigable Small World, algorithm for ANN search, since it balances speed and recall well for most SMB document volumes under 1 million chunks. Enable semantic ranker on the index to add a re-ranking pass that meaningfully improves the quality of results sent to the LLM. Choosing the right chunking strategy. Fixed-size chunking works well for most business document types including policies, manuals, and FAQs. Semantic chunking, which splits on sentence or paragraph boundaries, improves retrieval quality for long-form content like legal contracts or technical specifications.
For most SMBs starting out, fixed size with 10 to 15% token overlap is the pragmatic choice before you have enough data to measure something more sophisticated. RAG versus fine-tuning, which is better for SMB AI use cases? For most SMBs, RAG is the right choice over fine-tuning.
Fine-tuning modifies a model's weights to learn new behavior. RAG gives the model access to current documents at query time without changing the model at all.
Here is a direct comparison.
Factor RAG fine-tuning data freshness real-time, update the index, static, retrain required, implementation cost low, $100-200/month, high, $1,000 plus upfront, setup time days to weeks to months. Data privacy documents stay in your Azure tenant. Training data sent to provider. Best use case Q&A, search, policy chatbot style transfer. Domain jargon infrastructure needed. Azure Managed Services GPU compute or managed training. Fine-tuning makes sense when you need a model to adopt a specific writing style, produce a proprietary output format, or understand highly specialized terminology absent from general training data. For knowledge injection, such as answering questions about product documentation or helping support agents look up internal policies, RAG consistently outperforms fine-tuning at a fraction of the cost. The OpenAI fine-tuning documentation explicitly recommends RAG as the first approach when the goal is giving a model access to new knowledge. Fine-tuning is for behavioral changes, not information updates. To see how RAG-powered AI fits into broader business automation workflows, how AI agents automate business processes for SMBs covers exactly that integration. Azure RAG architecture cost breakdown for SMBs. Enterprise RAG architecture for SMBs on Azure is more affordable than most founders expect. Here is a realistic monthly estimate for a system handling around 10,000 documents and 500 user queries per day. Service tier approximate monthly cost. Azure AI Search Basic $75, Azure OpenAI Embeddings Text Embedding 3 small $5-15, Azure OpenAI Chat GPT 4 Mini $20-60, Azure Blob Storage LRS 100 GB $2-5, Azure Functions Consumption Plan $0-5, total $100-160. These estimates are based on Azure public pricing as of early 2026.
Cost scale with query volume and model choice.
Switching from GPT-4o Mini to GPT-4o for higher accuracy roughly triples the chat completions cost, but for most internal knowledge base applications, GPT-4o Mini delivers strong accuracy at the lower price point. You can push costs down further using Azure reserved instances for predictable compute workloads. Our guide on Azure cost optimization, SMB savings strategies covers the reservation strategies that apply directly to AI service workloads on Azure. Security and compliance considerations for enterprise RAG on Azure. Security is where many SMB AI projects stall. Azure provides the controls to make a RAG system enterprise-ready without requiring a dedicated security team. Key security controls to implement. Private endpoints route all traffic between Azure services through private virtual network connections rather than the public internet. Managed identities use Azure Managed Identity so your Azure functions authenticate to blob storage and AI search without storing credentials in code. Role-based access control, RBAC restrict read access to source documents and blob storage and query access to the search index by user role. Customer managed keys, CMK encrypt your search index and blob storage using keys you manage in Azure Key Vault. Azure Private Link for OpenAI, keep your Azure OpenAI API calls inside your tenant network rather than routing through public endpoints. For businesses in regulated industries, Azure AI Search and Azure OpenAI are covered under Microsoft's compliance certifications including ISO 2 Type 2, ISO 27001, and HIPAA BAA.
If your RAG system needs to work alongside compliance automation, how to automate SMB compliance using Azure Logic Apps is a practical companion to this guide. 1 Detail most implementation guides skip. Document level access control. If your knowledge base contains documents that different user groups should not all see, security trimming must be implemented at the retrieval layer, not just at the application layer. Azure AI Search supports document-level filtering natively through filter expressions on indexed metadata fields. Common pitfalls in enterprise RAG architecture for SMBs. Most enterprise RAG architecture for SMBs that underperforms does so because of avoidable architectural mistakes, not model limitations. Here are the 5 most common. Pitfall 1: Chunks that are too large. Large chunks retrieve a lot of text but dilute relevance scores. Start with 512 tokens and tune based on measured retrieval quality rather than guessing. Pitfall 2: Pure vector search without keyword fallback. Vector search alone misses exact matches that matter in business contexts such as product codes, contract numbers, and employee names. Hybrid search in Azure AI Search combines vector similarity with BM25 keyword scoring for better overall recall. Pitfall 3: Skipping re-ranking. After retrieving the top K chunks, a cross-encoder re-ranker via Azure AI Search's semantic ranking feature dramatically improves what gets sent to the LLM. This one step often doubles perceived answer quality with minimal cost increase. Pitfall 4: No evaluation pipeline. Without a way to measure retrieval accuracy and answer quality over time, you cannot improve systematically. Even a simple test set of 50 question-answer pairs lets you track whether configuration changes are helping or hurting. Pitfall 5: Expecting the LLM to rescue bad retrieval. If your retrieval step returns the wrong documents, even the best language model will produce a poor answer. The majority of RAG quality problems live in the retrieval layer, not the generation layer. Fix retrieval quality first before tuning prompts. Conclusion: Enterprise RAG architecture for SMBs on Azure is one of the most practical AI investments a small business can make right now. With costs starting around $100 to $160 per month, a setup timeline measured in weeks rather than months, and Azure's managed services handling most of the infrastructure complexity, the technical barrier to entry has never been lower. The key decisions are chunk strategy, hybrid search configuration, and access control, and this guide has covered all 3 in detail. Start with one focused use case, a support knowledge base, an internal policy assistant, or a product documentation chatbot. Get that working, measure quality with a small evaluation set, then expand from there. If you want expert help designing or implementing your first RAG pipeline on Azure, our team specializes in bespoke Azure AI solutions for growing SMBs.